friends. I'm your host, Erin Port, and welcome to the Simple Purposeful Living podcast. Life can be overwhelming and busy, so once a week, I invite you to join me, and together we will make simple tweaks to uncomplicate the hard parts of our life so we can spend more time doing what we love. Welcome back to the podcast, friends. I'm your host, Erin, and this is one of your favorite podcast episodes I do every quarter. It's my Ask Me Anything, and we are in the middle of summer. Things are a little bit slower paced. You might need something fun and refreshing to listen to on your latest carpool, maybe a road trip, or maybe just your walk around the park while your kids are playing. This is supposed to be fun, and I've been collecting questions from you for the last couple of weeks online, and a couple of you sent me some on email, so I'm super excited to dive in to your questions today. So the first one came from an email. It says, "You seem to have an incredible gift for remembering the little details in people's lives and following up on them later, whether it's something their spouse said, something they're going through, or even small preferences. That's something I really struggle with, especially when I want to be more intentional in my relationships. How do you do that? And is it a natural skill, or are there habits and systems you use to remember and circle back?" I love this question. I think it's super honest, and I think it's really important. And of course, I always love a good tiny tweak. So I want to start with, I moved around every 2 years growing up. And so I think one of the things that I got good at, it is a skill, I believe. I think that you can be good at remembering details in people's life. I think we oftentimes underestimate that. You oftentimes will just say, "I'm not good at that," and kind of brush it to the side. But I really do believe so many things that we struggle with, we can get better with if we practice and are willing to practice, and if it matters to us. And it sounds like from this email, this person, it matters to them. They want to get better at it, but they want some tweaks to help them get started. And so, like I said, moving around every 2 years growing up, one of the things I had to get good at was investing in other people. I had a very short timeline to become friends with somebody. We moved every 2 years. And so I had to dive deep soon and often in order to make relationships be meaningful for me in a short amount of time. And one of the things I think that I did early on was this, really remembering things about people, asking things about people. But I honed this skill as an adult. And here are a few tweaks that I made. Number one, I use my phone all the time to remember things. I will put a reminder in my phone, in my calendar, to check back. So last year when my assistant Carrie had cancer, I would put in my calendar when she had treatment or when was her next scan so that I could email her, because we think we're going to remember, but we don't. We want to. It's not a matter of wanting to. Our lives are full and sometimes we just forget. But if we set ourselves a reminder, set ourselves up for success, we're going to be way more intentional. So that would be my number one tweak. Put it in the calendar. If your friend is going through something difficult, maybe they're going through a divorce and they have a hearing. I had that with a friend, like her daughter was going through a divorce. And so I put in the calendar when that was so I could circle back and ask her. I have a friend whose son is leaving for basic training camp. Is that what it's called? Basic training. Yeah, basic training next week. I have that on my calendar so I can message her on Tuesday and say, "Hey, how's it going? I'm thinking about you." Okay, so that's step number one. Put it in the calendar. I do it both in my phone, or if it's just like that week and I need to circle back around, I will put it just in my paper planner as well, but somewhere that I will see it and remember to do it. Okay, number two, when I think of someone, like if somebody pops to mind, this happens all the time to all of us. Somebody pops to mind and you're like, "Oh, I'm going to text them later." Instead of saying, "I'm going to text them later," I literally text them in the morning, in the moment. So yesterday, a friend came to mind. She's on vacation with a brand new newborn. I knew she was anxious about it. And so she popped to my mind. I said a quick prayer for her and I literally texted her, "Hey, I just prayed for you. You came to my mind." That's all I texted. It doesn't have to be long or elaborate to be meaningful. And then she could text me back, what she did when she was available. So those would be my two tweaks when it comes to being more intentional in your relationships. You can do this even with your spouse. If they have a big project coming up, put it in your calendar. Write it down on your calendar, right? Like that stuff matters. And if we can circle back around on it, it really is so meaningful to people because it's so counter to what they experience. So that would be where I started. Okay, next question. This was also from an email. I have a friend who's really introverted, but you'd never know it because she's trained to ask herself trained to herself to ask other people questions as a way to engage in social settings. It made me think of you. You do such a great job. By the way, thanks for always, these are like really nice compliments. You do such a great job connecting with all kinds of people, even when you don't seem to have much in common. Can you share how you think about asking good questions, especially for people who are introverts, have ADHD, or just feel awkward in conversation? I love this. Okay, so first and foremost, let me tell you this. I think this might surprise you. Again, I moved every 2 years growing up, so I had to hone the skill of putting myself out there from a very young age. But that should encourage you. It is a skill. It is not necessarily just something that you're born with. I really truly believe that you can practice asking questions and engaging in conversations, and you're going to get better at it if you're willing. Okay. But also, this might surprise you. I still get social anxiety. A couple of weeks ago, we went to a grad party, and I told my husband when we left, whew, those kind of situations wear me out. I have social anxiety. And he goes, you would never know it. And I said, no, but I do. And so I think I just want to encourage you that we all in those situations feel awkward. And I want to encourage you in that because sometimes you might go to a gala, a fundraiser, a networking event, a graduation, a wedding, and here's the way I approach it. This is what I always think when I'm going in. Everyone feels awkward. They're all dying on the inside right now. And so they're not trying to keep me out. They're not trying to purposely ignore me. They are gravitating towards people they also know so they don't feel alone. And so you see these cliques forming, and it's truly in my mind, I literally just think to myself, they're trying to find people that they can connect with too because they feel awkward. And so they're going to their safety net. That takes the pressure off of like, man, I'm the only one, right? We're all in that awkward situation. Okay. So that's kind of how I approach it. And then I always go in thinking this. Somebody told me a long time ago, I was an instructional coach, meaning I helped teachers hone their teaching practice before I resigned. So I got a lot of coaching classes. And one of the things that they said in those classes was people love to talk about themselves. And so if you can get people talking about themselves, number one, they usually solve their own problems, which is great when you're a coach because you want them to solve the problem, but you don't want to tell them what to do. But they love to talk about themselves. So if you ask them a question, and seriously, when you know this, you're going to see it everywhere. So, um, when you ask them a question, normally it's like right, continuous. And you're like, oh, wow, okay. And then once I ask them a question, and one of the questions I often will ask is like, hey, what have you been up to lately? Or what are you looking forward to? So simple. Hey, what have you been up to lately? What are you looking forward to? And then here's what I like to do. Oftentimes, when we're in awkward situations, we're thinking about ourselves. But I want you to think and listen intently on what that person is saying and watch their body language. Okay? Because oftentimes you're going to see them light up about something, a vacation, something their kids are doing, a win at work, and you can then ask a follow-up question. So first, hey, what have you been up to lately? Oh, Joe and I just got back from this trip to the Caribbean. Oh my gosh, we did this snorkeling cruise. And then, they go on, and you're like, oh, how did you find out about that snorkeling cruise? Or what kind of fish did you see on that snorkeling cruise? And then it goes from there, okay? Asking questions, it doesn't have to be the best questions, but just as you're asking questions, that really, really helps. And then looking for people to light up is really helpful too. And then when you feel like the conversation is dwindling, the other thing I would tell you is silence isn't a bad thing. I'm married to a processor, so I can verbally process till my heart's content. Like my kids and husband know I could talk to a brick wall. I mean, quite frankly, I am because I'm in my podcasting studio and there's nobody else here and here I am chatting. But some people take a minute to process. So Scott and I lead a connection group and we'll ask a question, we'll throw it out there, and nobody answers right away. And our knee-jerk reaction when we ask a question is to fill the void because it feels awkward. But here's what I've learned when I taught first graders is I would count to three slowly in my head. So I'd throw out a question and then I'd be like, one, two, three, at least to three to start. Usually at that point, somebody says something, but letting that pause sit there, allow people to process, knowing that not everybody processes at the same time is super helpful. So those would be my tweaks. Have a couple of go-to questions. What have you been up to lately? What are you looking forward to? Then listen carefully and watch the body language. Look and see what makes them light up. And then if there is a pause in conversation, that's okay. That's natural. Count to three before moving on or adding to the conversation. And remember, people love to talk about themselves. So I just would always say be very interested in the other person. Don't feel like you have to like one up them, or if you share something, maybe it's in solidarity, but not to like one up them. I think that that's really helpful. People can tell when you care about what they have to say. All right. All right. That would be my suggestion. And just keep practicing asking questions. I am not above ChatGPT. I am not above this. If you're on the way to an event and you ChatGPT, like give me two good questions to ask random strangers. And then you just write that down in your little notes app on your phone and you pull it up right before you go talk to somebody. Boom, there you go. Tiny tweak. I'm telling you, all the helps we can get until it becomes natural, because like anything, we have to practice. The more that we practice, the better we get at that skill. Flexing our fear muscle. Okay, let's see. Um, okay, we're switching gears. I loved those. This is from Instagram. What are some things your parents do as grandparents that are wins for you and your kids? I loved this question. I thought it was really insightful. I wondered if it came from a grandparent themselves. But one of the things I think my kids are very close to my parents. And I think reflecting back, I was very close with my dad's parents as well, not as close with my mom's parents. Number one, my mom's parents, we didn't see them very often. We lived far away, and my grandparents made every effort to go and see us. And I think my parents do the same thing. So my parents live in Minnesota in the summer, but then Arizona in the wintertime. My sister lives overseas, and my parents are going to see my sister and her family for a couple of weeks here in a couple of weeks. But my parents are really good about, even though they don't live close by, coming to my kids' things. The girls' dance recital, Solon's football games, basketball games, baseball games. Yes, they're not at every single one, and that's okay. But they come to the one and they make a big deal when they come, right? They build the kids up. They're so proud of them. I mean, sometimes it's embarrassing because my mom will be like, "That's my grandson." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." Like I live in a small town. Everybody's gonna be like, "Who's the?" But hey, my kids love it. They know grandma is gonna be the loudest one in the stands, right? Also, they are not critical of my kids. They are the grandparent. They are not the parent. And they know that. I mean, of course, when they're at their house and somebody's doing something unsafe, of course they're going to say something. But when it comes to you know, parenting things, that is not their gig and they know it. They're there to support, they're there to encourage, and that has been really helpful for me as a mom, that I know that I'm not gonna they might not always agree with what we do, but they're supportive and I really appreciate that. And then if they do, maybe step into that, they're really receptive to feedback. Like, hey, I've got this. They're like, oh, yes, okay. Like I'll go back to the grandparent role. My dad, we call him the CEO, the Chief Entertainment Officer, and he takes his role very seriously. Like, my dad is the biggest kid of the bunch. He will do anything to have fun with his grandkids. And my grandparents, I don't know if he learned this from my grandparents, but my grandparents were the same way. My grandparents learned how to ski in their 70s because all of us grandkids knew how to ski, and that was a way that they could connect with us. And I just think that speaks volumes to what they knew mattered, and they were willing to do that for the relationship with their grandkids. So I would say that. My dad was in the aerospace engineering field before he retired. So he took Solon to a flight simulator because Solon wants to be a pilot when he grows up. Like my parents know the way my kids tick, and they plan things accordingly based on that. Like they know what matters to my kids. Like Quincy loves sports. And so my dad's like, let's go do this together. And my mom's like, and they kind of, I wouldn't say gender role, but like, then my mom is like, oh, I know that the girls, like Vera loves to go to Sephora. All right. And like, as a grandma, she's like, let's go to Sephora and spend all the time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't go to Sephora one more time. But my mom's like, yes, that's what she loves to do. Or like my mom knew that Vera loves to organize and decorate. And so she invited Vera down for a week to help her do those things, unpack in her new home, help her to organize and decorate. You would have thought Vera won the lottery. But my parents knowing how their grandkids tick, what matters to them, that is a huge win for me and for my kids. Watching my parents love my kids and encourage them. I think the older my kids get, the more I appreciate people willing to invest in my kids in a positive way because as a parent, all you want for your kids is like for them to be poured into. And so when somebody does that, man, it means a lot. Okay. Okay. Let's go to, okay, this is another kind of, you guys can ask deep questions. So hopefully this is still fun while you're on your carpool and your walk. Okay. How do you handle positive and negative body talk with your girls? Okay. So if you're new to the podcast, you might have missed, but I dealt with a eating disorder when I was in high school and college. It started out as anorexia. Then I went to college and it was harder not to withhold food without people asking questions. So then I started to also binge eat and purge, which is bulimia. And I really struggled with that during high school and college. Um, and so I have healed from that over time and I know my triggers now, but I am very careful about what is spoken over my girls and their bodies because I think generations in the past, it was, and I think to an extent today, but I think we're getting better at it. Was very much in the outward appearance. So I love my grandmother dearly. She was one of the ones that learned how to ski. Like I love her, but she still to this day has a spiral notebook in her bathroom vanity, and she weighs herself 93 years old. Like, right? And so we don't own a scale in our home. Like literally, if somebody needs our weight and measurement, I have to go to the chiropractor because I'm like, I don't own a scale. So like, oh, okay, you need that for ski boots, for our ski trip. Let me go to the chiropractor and I'll get our weights for you. I don't really know how much my kids weigh. They don't often know how much they weigh. We really focus on eating nourishing foods. Like we don't talk about like bad foods or good foods, right? Like when we were growing up, it was like low fat, low, like we don't talk about any like we eat to fuel our body. We talk about that and like, everything in moderation around here. Right now, I'm following a protocol for my health where I'm doing gluten-free, dairy-free, refined sugar-free, and I'm not calling it a diet. I just called it a protocol. And I was very specific with my kids, like, hey, this is going to make me feel better on the inside. Mom is exhausted. I have some inflammation. I'm just not feeling my best. I want to feel better, more energetic, more on the go for you guys. So that's why I'm doing it. And I was very clear, like, this has nothing to do with anything outwardly, right? Like, and so just really talking about that. Um, I'm also super aware of how other people talk to my girls. My girls are two different body types. My sister and I were two different body types growing up. And one of the things I hated was that my sister and I were often compared. And I always felt like I was like, the one that was losing, if that makes sense. Like my sister had the beautiful long legs and she had anyway. And so I'm just very careful. I remember talking to Scott very early on when I could tell that my girls were going to have two different body types to never compare them, to never talk to them about like outward appearance in like a negative way. Just like, hey, you're so beautiful. You're so strong. Your body was made in God's image. So we talk a lot about that. I read one time that once you think about a thought once, it's easier to think it again. So I mean, if somebody says something, like I'll pull like, grandparent aside and say, hey, like, let's not say that again. Or, like I don't do it in the moment. I try to be respectful, but I'm very careful about what things are said about my girls and like what they perceive. We just watched the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders documentary and like I remember a lot of those feelings about the way you look on the outside and all of those things. And so we have very open conversations with our girls about those things. And I'm not dismissing and not saying that I'm doing it perfectly, but I am very cognizant of that because of my history. And they know my history. And I've been very forthright in that and how I found healing and all of those sorts of things. So, um, I don't know if I'm doing it right or wrong, but we're trying our best over here. So hopefully that helps. Okay. I thought that this was a really good question. And let's see. Oops, I went too far. I'm looking at my notes if you're watching on YouTube. What's something you've changed your mind about in the past year and why? And I was like, oh, that's a good question. And I would say counseling and accountability. So I've spoken very openly and publicly about the fact that a year ago I started counseling. I should have started it years before. I knew I needed to go. I knew there was things even from COVID and the adoption and just my eating disorder history. There was just things. I have anxiety. I've been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, meaning that I have anxiety about things and it rotates. So, like, it's not like I'm anxious about one particular thing. Like, I perseverate on something and that's what I get anxious about. It drives me nuts because I'm like, why does it rotate? um, but counseling and seeing a therapist has been super helpful for me. And I think too, accountability. It took some humility on my part to say I needed help because I am a perfectionist. I'm gonna get to this later, my Enneagram type, but I'm an achiever and I like to do things well, and I don't like to admit when I need help. I'm an Enneagram 2 too, so I love to help people. I don't like to be helped. And so that was really hard for me. But I would say something I've changed my mind on is I want all the help now. I have seen how much I am a better wife, a better mom, a better business owner, a better friend, having that accountability and being able to go to somebody and share my thoughts and get feedback. I also have changed my mind a little bit on feedback, like not criticism, because I don't think criticism is helpful, but feedback in the sense that like sometimes my therapist will say, I think this is something that you need to think about. And it might, or, and my business coach will say, I think you're being insecure right now. Like, why are you being insecure? And like asking me a question and kind of pointing out a little bit of tough love. And I used to cringe because, again, I'm an achiever. I want to be perfect. I don't want to fail. But what I found is feedback and is a help to me because I can learn, I can grow, I can make change. Like I don't like to be ignorant to things that I'm doing that I need to change. Does that make sense? So I would say that's something that has really changed. I used to like be scared of feedback, scared of like critical feedback, and now I'm like, it's not always easy to hear, but I'm learning to like take it in and think about it, especially in relationship where I have relationship with people who I know love me and care for me and want the best for me. And so this feedback is going to help me, if that makes sense. Like the random stranger on the internet that's giving me criticism. Well, I don't have a relationship with them. That's different. But my therapist, my business coach, my friend, my husband, my kids who care about me, want the best for me, and are giving me this feedback, well, then I want that so that then I can be better and I can be aware of that and move forward and change. Okay, so that's something that's changed in the last year. Okay, what's something that you don't love that everyone else does? Okay, so number one, a couple of weeks on the podcast, Scott and I were on, and I said movies. I hate movies. I don't love them. The only time that there is an exception to that rule is at Christmas time, Hallmark movies and like the Christmas movies we watch year after year. Does that make sense? So like Home Alone, Christmas Vacation, Santa Claus, like I like those movies and I will watch those at Christmas. Do not ask me to watch them in July. I will not. But to sit down and watch a movie, like Scott and I can count on our hand how many movie dates we've been on over the course of the years we've been married. Like if the movie and I don't like scary movies. I don't like, I mean, even over um, the 4th of July weekend, we were talking about books we'd read, and my mom was like, oh, I call the Elin Hildebrand my palate cleansers, like the ones that are just easy breezy. And I was like, well, apparently I only like palate cleansers because I only like easy and breezy. The world is a tough, dark, hard world. I just want to read easy and breezy, and I don't want to watch scary movies. So I don't love movies. I'm just not a movie fan. Hollywood. Also, another thing that I don't love that everyone else does, and it's not that I don't love it, I just don't care about it, is Hollywood and celebrities. half the time, I don't know who they are. I don't really care. It doesn't affect me in my life. I don't know. It doesn't, trendy things and trendy people and all that stuff. It just, half the time I'm like, who, what, where, when, why? And okay, it doesn't bother me. So there's that. And when somebody talks about somebody famous, I'm like, I have nothing to add to the conversation. This is when I have to ask questions because I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. What's a belief or habit? You guys are asking tough questions. What is a belief or habit you hold that most people might not agree with? Okay. I don't know if this is one, but I thought about this a long time today. And one belief that I hold that maybe people wouldn't agree with, if not by action, right? Like, I don't know. I don't always see this lived out. And maybe I don't live it out the best either. So there's that. Is choosing relationship over being right. Um, it, it's almost a pet peeve where people lose the relationships because they have to be right. Um, it doesn't mean that I don't care about truth. It doesn't mean I don't have values that I hold strong to, and like my faith is really important to me. But I have learned that being right at the cost of connection isn't worth it. I've seen it play out so many times in my family and in my friends. I've lost friends because I was like, and a few times in my life where I wanted to be right, over the relationship. And so I try to stay really curious. I think that the theme of this podcast is to ask questions. I ask a lot of questions. People often have different opinions for good reasons, right? Their life circumstances. And I always tell people that anytime they have, like, they see an issue, like, say, like a hot button issue, abortion, what else are the hot button issues of today? Like immigration rights, all of those sorts of things. People have those opinions based on experiences in their life. And I usually try to be really curious and ask questions like, why do they feel the way that they do? What life experiences have led them to that? And ask in a generally non-condescending tone, like, oh, tell me why you feel that way. Or, oh, that's interesting. Like, tell me more about that. Because what I often find is people aren't usually as far apart as we think they are. And their perspective informs my perspective. It doesn't always change my perspective, but it gives me a deeper, richer understanding of where other people are coming from. And here's where I always go down to is I think when we can put a personal narrative, like a personal story on a issue, it helps me to humanize it and make it not feel like this big thing that I can't wrap my brain around, but like, oh, okay. Does that make sense? So I would just say something that I really try to do is to just choose relationship over being right, not needing to have the last word, agreeing to disagree, um, and just having that posture of curiosity has helped me stay grounded in grace, especially in conversations that could easily be tense or decisive. I have a couple of situations in families where we disagree and they're baiting me. They think that they know where I stand and I just refuse to give into it because that relationship matters more to me than being right. And I don't think I'm ever going to win them over by like, you know, hitting them over the head if that makes sense. So, anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Okay. How do you know when something is good enough to share publicly? Well, I mean, if I really worried about perfection when it comes to the podcast or a caption or a reel, I probably would never post, to be perfectly honest with you. I love writing. Writing is cathartic to me. Speaking is cathartic to me. I'm a verbal and written processor, so those things are very cathartic. The editing portion is not my strong suit. So I, of course, have a podcast editor who helps me sound better. Thank you. Shout out to Tim. He does an amazing job. And then like, of course, sometimes I'll use ChatGPT now for I'll put my caption in and say, please make sure there's no typos and correct punctuation because I've gotten slammed on the internet for those things. But other than that, usually how I know it's going to be good enough when it comes to simple purposeful living is I always lead with my heart. And when I don't lead with my heart is when I go astray and I lose focus and I kind of lose my way. And so I try every morning just to like get up and be like, okay, God, simple, purposeful living is yours. I am stewarding it. I think of him as like, I feel like I'm like the financial advisor. This is kind of how I look at simple, purposeful living. It's God's, and He's asked me to steward it, just like I asked my financial advisor to steward our money. And so He's given me immense responsibility, immense trust, right? Just like my financial advisor, I have immense trust in him. He has immense responsibility. And with that, he knows that, right? He feels that. The same as me with simple, purposeful living. And so I think for me, just like really thinking about that, like, okay, God, you've given me this to help them simplify their life so they can make space for what matters. What is it that you want me to share? And it sounds crazy, but usually I get this like, it doesn't always happen. Not every post is like this by all means. But when I get this burning in my stomach, nervousness, like I get this like little fluttering in my stomach, it sounds silly, but that feeling usually means it matters to me. It's close to my heart, and it's honestly where the good stuff lives. Last week, I posted about spilling the secrets to my family's 30 plus year family vacation at the 4th of July. And literally, you guys, I wrote that in the car the last 30 minutes before we arrived at my parents' lake place. And I was like, oh, I could have written this different. I could have written this better. I mean, I was kind of picking it apart, but I was like, I don't have time. I want to post it. I think it's really valuable. I think it could be helpful to people to help them have family tradition vacations as well. And I posted it and I turned off my phone that night and it went crazy viral. And I think that's just a good example of like, sometimes I just put things out there that really mean a lot to me that I think are going to be helpful to people. And I just have to like, trust that the person that sees it will see it, that needs it, and everything else, will get taken care of. So I think that that's kind of my mantra is just to lead with the heart, trust that what I'm sharing is going to be helpful to the person that needs it and the outcome. I'm learning a lot this year that I can only control the input. I can't control others, I can't control outcomes, and I can't control old stuff. And so really just focusing on what can I do to be helpful and encouraging on simple purposeful living and let God take care of the outcome. Okay, so that kind of went a little bit down a rabbit trail, but there you go. Okay, biggest pet peeve. Okay, if you've been here a while, you know that people chewing in my ear. I mean, I love you, but do not chew in my ear. Like, there is like a level of rage that can only be unlocked if you chew in my ear. It's a joke in my family for like road trip snacks that mom needs to be eating in order for everyone else to be eating. And I mean, I'm kind. We turn on the radio, it's fine. But I mean, one time my cousin Madeline, we were playing a game and she was eating Cheetos and I like looked at her and she's like, I feel like I just got the death stare. I was like, I'm trying really hard to love you right now, but please stop eating for the love of Pete your Cheetos. So there's that. I also think on another deeper level, I really struggle when people are rude to service workers. Like, you're not, like, I don't know. I feel like that people can be like kind of demeaning or like, you're here to serve me. And they just see them as like this, um, yeah, like not as a human with a soul, but just like, you're here to serve me and you need to do this, right? And I just, it really rubs me the wrong way. Like that person has a family, that person has feelings, that person might have just come from a really hard morning with their kid at home. Like we don't know, but there's just so much more to them than them filling your grocery bag and sending you on your way or them making your coffee. And so I just really try to like look them in the eye. If they're wearing a name tag, to call them by name. It's funny sometimes because like they'll be like, kind of weirded out that I call them by name. But for me, calling them by name is very purposeful in the fact that I see them and they're more than just what they're doing for me, if that makes sense. So it really rubs me the wrong way when people are rude to service workers. It just, I'm like, you're not better than them. Stop being like that. Like, oh, anyway, I think there's always a tactful, kind, humble way to be kind to them. And I worked in the service industry. I was a waitress. I was the person slapping pizzas behind the counter. And I think that that's valuable because I could put myself in their shoes, if that makes sense. Okay, what's your go-to snacks right now? I'm going to talk about this next week and what's saving us this summer, but the Archer mini beef sticks. We also like the chomplings, but they haven't had those at Costco lately, so it's kind of, in my opinion, they're interchangeable, but those mini beef sticks have been so helpful. I read the Glucose Revolution book as part of my protocol for my doctor, and it talks a lot about getting more protein in your diet, and I wasn't a big beef stick fan before, but just knowing how protein really limits the glucose spike and makes you less tired, which is something I've been struggling with. So I've been eating more protein, and those little mini beef sticks are perfect. I also love the Lesser Evil popcorn. So good. Oh my gosh. We get it at Costco. We just bought 3 bags at Costco yesterday. We love that. And then the other thing I've been loving lately is almonds, like just salted almonds, and a handful of Lily's chocolate chips. They're the baking chips and they don't have refined sugar in them. It has stevia extract, so it works with my protocol, but it kind of gives me this like chocolate peanut sensation, and it's delicious. So those are kind of my go-to snacks right now. Okay, what's your coffee order? I'm not a big to-go coffee order. I am cheap. So spending like $6 on a coffee, like, ew, it's just hard for me. I'm actually contemplating taking my Nespresso with us to Dance Nationals. Does that make me? But I'm hoping that they have a coffee maker in the store in the hotel. They don't always now, some of those like bigger hotels with a convention center, they want you to go down and buy coffee. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm normally an espresso coffee person. I have a pod that's regular and then usually a decaf pod in the morning. But I like the caramel or the sweet vanilla. And then I just do a splash of vanilla that I froth in my frother. If I do go out for coffee, I will do a latte with no flavoring with almond milk. I know, it's really boring. If I'm feeling fancy, I will sometimes do honey and cinnamon. Like that's my fancy one, My parents have this coffee spot in their neighborhood called Honey and Soul. It's like a little cute cafe, and they have the Honey and Soul latte, and it has cinnamon and honey, and it is so good. So that would be my fancy gussied up special occasion order. Okay, what's your Enneagram type and do you relate to it? Okay, so um I know that like Enneagrams kind of get a bad rap. I like it because I think it helps you to be more self-aware. Is it the Bible? Is it like foolproof? No, but I think it has been helpful to me to recognize that I am a 2 with a 3 wing, and honestly, it explains a lot, especially my product line. The 2 in me wants to help and encourage and support you in your everyday life, and the 3 in me wants to do it in a way that's beautiful, purposeful, and excellent. I want to help you, and I want to do it really, really well. That's my personality. Um, I love creating things that are thoughtful and intentional. If somebody were to ask me, like, what is your measure of success? When I get emails from you, DMs from you that say, this really helped me, or this changed my life, or this little tweak truly made my life easier. I mean, honestly, I would do simple, purposeful living for free. And for many years I did. And it helps me ride the waves of less financial gains, because truly that's what makes my heart sing, knowing that I've made an impact and helped people in their life. The downfall to that is that I don't always ask for help. And I talked about that earlier. So learning that boundaries are good, that doesn't mean that I don't love people. That's hard for me because I'll give and give and give until I'm like literally on my deathbed. And then I'm like, oh, I should probably take care of myself. But oh, what about the other people? Right. So I'm learning that. But I think it's been helpful. I'm an Enneagram 2, the helper. And then with the 3 on the side, achiever thrown in for good measure. What song do you play when you need an instant mood boost? Okay, it's Pitbull and Christina Aguilera. Feel this moment. Someday when the clouds have gone down, I'm in my castle golden. That song. Um, anyway, I won't keep singing. I love that. Also, Forrest Frank is a great bop for you and your kids. If you need like a morning anthem, like I'm making coffee, the kids are unloading the dishwasher, or I'm making dinner and it's feeling a little harried, I just put Forrest Frank on. We love him too. But hype song number 1, it's my like I went wake surfing last weekend, and that's the song that they put on the tower when I was doing it. Feel this moment, na 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 na. Okay, I'm done. I'm not a singer. Okay. Morning person or night owl? I used to say I was neither, but if I had to pick one, I'd say morning person. I'm just not like a 5:30 in the morning person. It's funny because Scott just started working out with my trainer and comes home and he goes, "Oh, yeah, I signed up with Amy at 5:30." And I said, "Oh, shoot, she didn't have any morning times." And he goes, "No, 5:30 in the morning." I go, "Oh, yeah, that's so early. It didn't even register that that was a time one would work out." So, during the school year, I usually try to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 5:45 if I'm having a good day. In the summer, it's been more like 6:30, 6:45. But I also go to bed really early, usually between 9:30 and 10 most nights. I need at least 8.5 hours of sleep. And if I didn't get it, if I've had some bad sleep, then I sometimes need more. Like last night I went to bed, I think I fell asleep before 9 o'clock. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I think my kids came in and tucked me in. I was already passed out. I'd read my book and was going to bed. So, okay, I think that's everything for Ask Me Anything. I love these questions today. They were really thought-provoking. I did spend some time really thinking about them. So thanks for asking. I hope it was helpful. I hope you found a few tiny tweaks that could make your life 100 times easier, whether it's in social settings or with your grandparents or how you talk to your kids about body image, or maybe you could just relate on relationships over being right or whatever else, or maybe you're also a fellow can't stand when people chew in your ear. But I hope you have a great day. I'll be back next week. We are going to be talking about things that are saving us this summer. I think that'll be a fun episode too. But until then, remember, you don't have to overhaul your life to love it when one tiny tweak will do. I heard from a listener last week that said, "I thought that was a bunch of BS when you first said it, but you keep saying it, and now I'm starting to believe it." And that is why I say it every single week. All right, friends, until next time, I hope you have a great week and you find a tiny tweak that simplifies this week. If you liked this episode, it would mean so much if you'd share it with a friend or leave a quick rating and review so others can find our show. Until next time, you can find me at Simple Purposeful Living on Instagram and Facebook.